Good morning, church. So if you would ask me how long I've been a Christian, I would tell you my whole life. But if you ask me how long I've known Jesus, I would tell you 5 years. I grew up Lutheran. We went to church on Sundays and youth stuff on Wednesdays. I could tell you the 10 Commandments. I could tell you all the books of the Bible from beginning to end. And I could pray before every meal. I knew how to do all the church things, but I didn't actually know Jesus. And unfortunately, my testimony starts a lot younger than it should have. When I was 8 years old, someone our family trusted touched and hurt me in ways that no child should ever have to experience. And from a young age, my mind correlated my body as my worth. I had a boyfriend all throughout high school. As soon as one relationship ended, I'd find myself in another. I didn't want to be alone. Besides that, I was a pretty good kid. I followed the rules, I tried to get good grades, and I was involved in extracurriculars. When I graduated high school, though, I was ready to see more of what the world had to offer. And at 18, I drank for the first time. And I also blacked out for the first time. And for 8 years, I would struggle with drinking, lust, and identity. I thought it was normal to black out when you drink. So that's what I did every weekend, and eventually even more often than that. I continued to think that my body was my worth, and I would seek validation in men. I knew how to say and do all the right things to get the attention I desired, and I found myself brokenhearted time and time again, not understanding why the men that I would give my all to kept leaving me. In 2018, I got into bodybuilding. I went from drinking every night to only drinking on the weekends. I dropped 50 pounds, and I thought life couldn't get any better. By 2020, I had graduated college, started my first business, and was making multiple 5 figures a month. I drove my dream car. I was in the best shape of my life. And I remember thinking, I am the fittest, hottest, richest I've ever been. And I'm only 25, so life is going to be really good. I moved away for 8 months. And when I came back to Omaha, I had never been so lost. I ended up being invited to this church. I had seen it online, and it was completely different than anything I had ever gone to before. But I figured I would give it a try. And for a few reasons, I decided I hated it here, and I was never coming back. Meanwhile, I had drained my bank account and I was using credit cards to pay my bills. I traded in my dream car for the worst car I'd ever driven. I gained more weight than I had lost, and I was constantly listening to podcasts, reading books, and taking in as much personal development as I could, thinking if I could just get my mind right, then I could turn my life back around. A sweet friend of mine encouraged me to come here one more time. I was hesitant, but we came. And as the Lord always does, the message seemed like it had been specifically written for me. From what I remember, it was an encouragement to stop doing things in my own strength and to trust God. I raised my hand during that salvation call. I came to the altar, tears streaming down my face, and from there, I was truly all in on Jesus. A few weeks after dedicating my life to Jesus, my sister got married. I was her maid of honor, and per my usual MO, the only way I knew how to celebrate was by blacking out. The next morning, I woke up and I felt like I had been hit by a train. I said the prayer that a lot of people say after a night of drinking. Lord, if you just take away this hangover, I promise I'll never get drunk again. I went back to sleep for an hour, and when I woke up, I felt brand new. I audibly gasped because I knew I had just experienced my first miracle. June 12th, 2021 was the last time I ever got drunk. In fact, I rarely drank after that, and as of September 2022, I decided to go completely sober. After experiencing that first miracle, I knew I needed to get plugged in. I started serving on a team, attending a group. I even joined the Bible college. At a team gathering, I audibly heard the voice of God for the first time tell me that I was home, and I finally had peace about why he brought me back to Omaha. But when you hear my story, I don't want you to feel bad because of what I've been through. I don't want you to hear the injustice, the addiction, the brokenness, and think she didn't deserve that. Because while I agree, I wouldn't change a thing because it led me to a relationship with Jesus, a sinless man who died an undeserving, painful death in my place. He knew every wrong choice that I would make, every time that I would choose the world over him, and every time that I would run from him. I spent years trying to find my identity in anything else, and now I know that my identity is in Jesus. It's not in money, nice homes, fancy cars, the fittest body, or what anyone thinks of me. I know that at the bottom of every bottle is nothing but shame, regret, and embarrassment. Addiction was never meant to be my story. Walking with Jesus was. Because I grew up a Christian, I ran from Jesus for a long time. I knew the Bible said that I couldn't get drunk, but I thought I knew better. And let me tell you, his plans are far better than ours. My life doesn't look like I thought it would. Instead, I am filled with peace and joy. My decisions are based on living out my faith, not what pleases me in the moment. The things I thought I lost are nothing compared to everything I've gained walking with Jesus. And so many of you see me worshiping down here on Sundays, and it's because I know far too well where my life would be had I not surrendered it to him. I don't worship him because of what he rescued me from, but I worship him because of who he is. And sometimes people compliment the way I worship, and it's often followed by a fear of what other people would think if they chose to do the same. And so I want to tell you that fear of man has to go. If someone is judging the way that you worship, it's between them and God. If you've ever felt the desire to come to the altar, come down and worship him. Not because you need something from him, not because you need an answer to another prayer, but because he is worthy. Jesus gave everything for us, so don't let the fear of what other people might think keep you from the worship that he deserves. He is worthy of it all.